Hello, everyone. So, welcome to the first ever office hours. So, you know how I do Healing 101, and it's a class. We're learning in all classes when you go to college or upper level classes, even not even college, but trainings, everything. Generally, there's a segment of time when the instructor makes themselves available and you can ask questions or get them to give more details or instructions about some of the content that has been shared in class. So I decided, since we're always in a delayed type situation, that I would offer office hours where I would be live. And I believe that this will be the time, but I will definitely be open to suggestions if this is not a good time. I think Fridays. It could either be Wednesdays or Fridays for me. In the afternoon works better, but we could always work it out if we need a different office hours session. I'm open to that. But what I would generally discuss would be something that I feel is supplemental information that could be helpful, that is either directly related or adjacent to the subjects that we're covering. So, right now, we're still in the Live from Within chapter, and it has been some tough conversations for sure because we're digging in and doing the work. What a lot of it is uprooting long held belief systems that you have within that have been unconsciously impacting your behavior in a way that you've not even been really aware of. And now that you are aware of it, it can be mind blowing to be quite frank, especially because we are a certain age. We're not 5 years old, so we have decades in most cases of experiences and emotions and things that we were not able to identify, and now we're giving them language and we're learning a new way of being, and it is not easy. So I congratulate everyone on what they're learning and doing as far as their healing process goes, whether in Healing 101 or separately. And I hope what I share is of benefit to whoever does get a chance to watch it. But since I didn't tell anyone that I would be doing this, I don't imagine there will be a great deal of people. I see one person is there. Hi, whoever that is, welcome. Put your name in the chat if you're there. Say hello so I'll know you're here. But in lieu of questions, I did have something that I wanted to share. So you will notice I have been on a hiatus from posting content for the last few weeks. And I thought that what I was dealing with in my own personal healing journey would be helpful if I shared it with someone else. So, suffice it to say, and I think I've mentioned this in our classes before, that I feel my real intentional healing journey started in about 2009. And that was when I really decided, like, what was happening for me. Like, I had checked off all these boxes and all this kind of stuff, and I wasn't happy, and like life just started like happening, and I got separated, ultimately divorced, and like lots of stuff happened. We'll talk about it. We talk about it all the time, but I won't go into that now in the interest of time. But suffice it to say, I've been on this journey for a minute. And so, if I'm very honest, there are times when I think that I've gone past certain things and like I won't have to deal with them again. And then every now and then I am reminded and humbled to know that it's a journey, it's not a destination. And as much as I think I have learned and grown through things, there's still more that I will be ultimately uncovering and growing and learning. So this was one of those situations. And I took some notes so I wouldn't just be rambling. So I do want to just share, I'll share overall what was going on. Um, but the details aren't that important. but we can share the details too, but another time. The overall was that I ultimately went through a breakup quite some time ago. It was last year, as a matter of fact. And I thought that I was done and like clear of it. Like I wasn't feeling sad about it or wasn't really thinking that much about it, period. I was busy and working on the podcast and doing stuff with my friends and working with my children and doing things that are meaningful and matter to me. And so within that, I never gave myself a chance to grieve the loss. And I guess at some point, my soul said, "This has to happen. This is happening." And it was like, at first I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I had what I call the saddies. I guess if I am being really um accurate in languaging, I would say it was a situation of situational depression. It wasn't like a major depressive episode, but definitely my sleep was altered. I was just sad. I was crying every day. I didn't necessarily feel hopeless, which is what I will like think. What I think of is like the crossing line between like major depressive. I didn't feel hopeless, but I just didn't know how to dig myself out. And so I was becoming more and more like withdrawn and to myself. And of course, thinking about how sad I was and not knowing why. And it was like a dark night of the soul, put it like that. And so I learned a couple of things within that. And the first thing I feel like was my lesson is it's okay to call in the Calvary and ask for help. I had to realize that I wasn't cool. I wasn't good. And when my friends or loved ones were calling me, it was okay for me to say that I wasn't okay. And that I didn't really know why, but I was just down and I couldn't get out of it. And I didn't really know like next steps. I didn't have a plan, but I was just trying to figure it out. And so ultimately, I was within my quiet time considering like what some options were. One thing that I refused to do was to stop my quiet time, which I was so tempted to do because my sleep was off. So I wanted to like sleep longer instead of getting up early and, spending my time in. I do prayer, meditation, I read spiritual readings. I try to just get what I say like connected to source, whatever that is for you, whatever source means to you, whether it's uh some religious aspect of it or a spiritual aspect or nature, whatever it is to you. But for me, it is the most high. That is what I call that guy my source. So I try to spend an hour or more in the mornings getting like rejuvenated, reconnected with him in different practices that I do. And so I didn't let that fall to the wayside because I knew there was some part of me, my soul, I'm guessing, that knew that that was like the thing that was keeping me from falling into like a depression. Because I think that's where my hope still lied. Like I knew that things weren't going right, but I knew ultimately I had faith that it wasn't going to be like this always. So I was able to keep that going. And then I got the inclination because I was like having crying sessions every day, which is totally not like me. If you haven't noticed, I'm a pretty bubbly person. It's difficult for me to sit in a negative emotion because I just feel so, it feels so like, what would you got say? Foreign to me. It feels very foreign to me. That's part of my lesson too, but I'll get to that one. That's like point number three. We're still on one. So there was a part where I said, you know what, I might need more help than the tools that I know how to use because I had, you know, done journaling. I had tried to use feelings wheel, sit with the emotions, like really let stuff come up. And I will say that I didn't get any insightful information from that, but even in processing the things that would come up, it wasn't really giving me any big relief from being like sad. And this is now going on upwards of 3 weeks. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to reach out to a professional. And I have gone to therapy before, and I think therapy is wonderful. And especially when you're trying to heal deep seated traumas and things that you don't understand. So I didn't, my therapist, my last therapist that I had released me because she was like, you have coping mechanisms, and we're just really like talking, like as friends. There's nothing more that's really I can do. So I feel like I'm taking your money. So she had released me. Shout out to Yolanda. I love her. And then so I was like, I can't call Yolanda because we're like Facebook friends now. So I don't even think we can go back to professional after we've gone personal. Um, and so I was like, but you know what? Maybe there's other resources. And then I got an aha moment, which I think, of course, was the Holy Spirit giving me unction, an inclination um, to use my employee assistance program. And so I just want to say, use the resources that are available to you. That's the number one lesson. Call in the Calvary if you need to. If that's get a therapy session on board, use your EAP, whatever is the case, because sometimes it is more than one person can handle on their own. Or even if you can handle it on your own, you don't have to. Like there's resources available and there's trained professionals that are available. YouTube is great, podcasts are great. All of that is good for, to me, coaching. But sometimes you need acute help. And in that case, it's kind of like if a coach is coaching a team and somebody gets hurt, the coach doesn't help at that point. The coach backs up and lets the medic or the doctor, team doctor come out. And so sometimes you have to do that. And there's no shame in that. That doesn't mean that you're any less capable on your journey. It just means something has come up that I need help with. And there's no shame in that. So I didn't ultimately get to the I made the appointment, but they kept pushing it back. So by the time I did get the appointment, I really had kind of made headway. So it really was just like a I was just happy to know that that was available, and probably if I ever needed it again, it wouldn't take as long because now I've set up my EAP account. I hadn't used it. So I encourage you, if you do have EAP, which most companies do, and it's usually 6 sessions free, that are by phone and it's confidential. They won't tell your employer. And it's not just for you, it's for all of your immediate family for most employers. When you're having an issue and you just can talk to a professional about it. It's not necessarily for deep therapeutic things, but it's more solution oriented, like to give you some ideas and kind of break you out of your level. Sometimes two heads are better than one, and you may not want to speak to other people about it, but the EAP person can be a person that can help you and give suggestions and resources and things like that. Okay. And then next, I learned that I wasn't alone. And I took that opportunity because I'm usually the strong friend. So I don't tell people when I'm going through things. I just kind of like suck it up. One of the things that I feel like is like a direct result of being raised primarily by a man is there's no crying in baseball type situation. Like you can be sad or you can be hurt or whatever, but it shouldn't stop the progression of what's going on. So I find myself doing that a lot, and also feeling like I don't want to place the burden of my emotions on someone that I care for and love. Everybody has their own stuff going on. So, because of that, I don't generally tell someone. If I have a mate, I may, but even that is a maybe because it depends on if I think that they are in a good place. Like they have a space for me in that point. Like basically, if they ask me, is anything wrong, I would tell them. But rarely am I going to them because I have been kind of mentally trained, and this isn't a good thing, that I can't go to anyone else with my issues. But that's not true. That was the lesson that I learned because I did something different. What was working, what I usually do wasn't working. So I did something different, and I told some of my close friends how I was really feeling. And they really rallied around and like spent time with me, and like just that having that connection of people, and that it was like two separate incidents. One called me and was like, "Oh, I'm coming over," and the other one called me and was like, "Oh, you want to go out to eat?" And I hadn't been spending time with anyone, so because I had isolated myself and I was feeling sad and down, so I did feel very alone and disconnected. But because I told them what was going on, they were able to show up for me in the way that I would for my friends, just like you would for yours. So it felt good to know that that was an option. And it really started to make things turn around for me because I am an extrovert. Could you tell? Did you know? But anyway, I get energized from being around people. So the energy of that really just kind of helped me work through what I was dealing with. And then I ultimately started to recognize that I was in a grieving process. I didn't realize that at first. I just knew I was sad. Um, and then number three is two things can be true at the same time. This is a vital lesson. This is vital for anyone because oftentimes, and I'm using myself as an example, I will, in my processing of my own emotions, negate how I feel because I'm giving compassion to another person that might have triggered through their behavior my feelings. Because I do understand no one is responsible for my feelings, and definitely no one is responsible for processing my feelings. But it is true that someone's behavior, someone's choices can impact you in a negative way. That's just true. And I think I had spent so much time rationalizing why things that hurt me in a negative way happened that I didn't ever give myself real space to acknowledge that it had hurt me. Like I didn't give myself that space. And so while I was sad about what I thought was one thing, I started to realize that it was really a pattern being exposed. And that pattern was that I did not feel that I should uh, spend a lot of time on negative emotion. Um, but I had to really rethink that because not to say that we should spend a lot of time on it, but we should spend the appropriate amount of time on it. And that is only going to come from really acknowledging the truth of the matter. And so I had to recognize that two things could be true at one time. I could forgive someone and have compassion and understand that because of their own wounds, that's why they made the choices and showed up in a way that ultimately hurt me. That's true. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't hurt. And it doesn't mean I have to blame them for that hurt, but I do have to let myself acknowledge that I was hurt and how that felt. And this is something that once I did it, of course, like it just began to be such a smoother transition through the emotions, but I wasn't acknowledging that I was hurt because I was so busy being logical and spiritual and trying to give grace to the other person, but without giving grace to myself because my feelings did matter just as yours do. You know what I mean? So those were the lessons that I learned. And on the other side of it, it's of course lovely. You know, whenever you're going through something hard and you make it through, it builds muscle. So now it's like I did that. I got through that. I got by with a little help from my friends, of course, but also I got by with the tools that I had learned, and just like giving myself some grace, giving myself the same level of significance that I would give to someone else if they were sad, if they were feeling bad and not being able to really get out of it, move forward on their own. I needed to give that to myself. So ultimately, that's the overarching lesson that I learned, is that I have to, no matter how long I'm on this healing journey, accept that there's still more road ahead. And the other thing is that I can do it. Like that's what being this far on the journey has let me given me confidence in. Like I know I can do it because I've done it before. And I will use the tools that I have, but I will also gain additional tools like I did in this case. I learned to reach out to my friends and tell them that I wasn't okay. And now that is a tool that it had not been in my toolbox. And if it was, it actually it was in my toolbox, but it had remained wrapped. It was like plastic. It was not utilized. So I encourage you to take advantage of the tools that you have in your toolbox, especially when you get down, like sad, when you get the saddies or when any negative emotion, like it's okay. The people who love you, they want to be there for you. So give them the opportunity to do that. And especially if you're the friend that's always there for someone else, give your friends a chance to be there for you because they love you like you love them. So they'll be ecstatic to do it. It won't be a burden. So get that out of your mind. Is it a burden to you when you're there for your friends? I know, right? It's not. So I encourage everyone to give grace to yourself, be there for yourself in a way that you would be there for a friend. Okay, that's all I really got today. We've been here for 20 minutes. I think office hours will roughly be 30 minutes. But I'm not going to sit in silence, and I don't think there's anyone here. I can't tell. It says one, but I don't know if the one is me or not. I can't tell, but I don't see anything in the chat per se. Maybe there is. Let's see. Live chat. Yeah, nothing is there. Let's see. Participants. Oh, my nephew. Hey, Micah. So my nephew dropped by. Hi, Micah. Good to see you. Happy belated birthday. I know you had a birthday on February 8th. But I'm going to drop if there are no questions. I love you so much, Micah, and to everyone else who gets to see this on the replay. Until I see you again, I'll ask you to do just one more thing, and that is live, love, and thrive.